In January of 1946, Jack FRYE was re-elected as president at the helm of TWA for a record 13th year. After the war effort, all the airplanes were returned fully rebuilt and re-outfitted for passenger travel by 1946. Then a serious flaw in the design of the bulkhead electrical connectors made up of dissimilar metals caused electrical shorts and fires. This design flaw led to a deadly crash on July 11, 1946, that ultimately grounded the Constellation fleet nationwide. The plane was the Star of Lisbon on a training flight near Reading, Pennsylvania that would set off a chain of events dooming Jack's presidency. The final fix on these connectors was to utilize aluminum studs with copper generator circuit conductors. The planes were grounded for 7 weeks, which put a large damper on the company's incoming revenues. And during this period, TWA went ahead and made some new updates on the plane, such as fuel-injected engines, hydraulic nose-wheel steering, insulation circuit breakers, and copper fuses to eliminate electrical shorts. Then they installed additional fire extinguisher capabilities in the rear section of the power plant assembly and improved exhaust collector rings. The Constellation re-entered international service the week of September 19, 1946, and the rest is history as to the Connie's great success as a people mover and a military transport, of which it made an even larger mark in its service record. Jack's visionary idea from 1938 finally paid off. With Jack FRYE's leadership, TWA inaugurated international flights between New York City and Paris in 1946. This move and other expansion efforts cost the company a ton of money. Then TWA was hit with another blow, completely blindsiding the whole airline industry. The first ever airline pilot strike on October 21, 1946, went nationwide no more than 1 month after the Connie was back in service. 800 TWA pilots walked off the job against their flying president, who took the company so far. Pilot pay disputes involving the new, larger Constellation aircraft was at the core of the strike. At the time, Eddie Rickenbacker headed Eastern Airlines, General C.R. Smith steered American, and W.A. Patterson headed United. All of these men faced a crucial crossroads in the history of commercial aviation. After much negotiating and brutal tactics on both sides, the Airline Pilots Association and the companies settled on November 16, 1946. Further battles occurred for co-pilot representation into 1947, but by now the damage had been done. In combination of the fatal Connie accident, the grounding of the Constellation fleet, and the pilot strike, all in a matter of a few months, TWA's stock value had dropped enormously, and a huge shakeup was about to occur from the top down. Though Jack wasn't directly involved with the strike negotiations, he knew his days were numbered, either by the board of directors or by his choice. In October of 1946, top management and the board of directors decided to reorganize TWA into 3 divisions: the Transcontinental Division, the International Division, and the Systems Staff Division. This was formally announced by Jack FRYE, and now Jack did keep his president's seat, but underneath his usual confident stature, something was brewing. This was a managerial change of the first order, with him as head over 17,000 employees in 1946. Noah Dietrich, Hughes' head legal counsel since the 1930s, hated Jack FRYE. He thought Jack was an overspender, a loose cannon, and a flyer by nature, not qualified to head a company and keep them in the black. He even falsely accused Jack of misappropriating funds when in fact, Jack invested the money into the company for new equipment and expansion. Jack was constantly guiding TWA forward as its leader, which meant money needed to be spent. Dietrich did not approve of this business management style and continually barked at Howard's ear to get FRYE out. From what I have read of some of the encounters the two had with each other, they were near fisticuffs. All of this aside, Hughes loaded the board of directors with Hughes tool directors and reorganized the leadership of the company and kept Jack FRYE as president. Dietrich's plan to get FRYE out was coming to fruition. An interesting side note about Jack and Howard occurred on July 7, 1946. Hughes was piloting a test flight of his prototype XF-11 reconnaissance aircraft in Southern California when one of the propellers reverse pitched, sending the plane into an uncontrollable dive. Howard was able to keep her flying, but ended up crashing into some homes in Beverly Hills. It was all over the news at the time. Howard nearly died with massive injuries that plagued him the rest of his life. Well, who was the first by Howard's side in the guarded hospital room? Jack FRYE. Jack stayed outside his room at least 2 days, keeping vigil for his old aviation friend. You never hear this story, as Jack FRYE was one who never wanted the limelight. Even while this high-power dispute was occurring, on December 21, 1946, Jack was awarded the Presidential Medal of Merit by Harry Truman for exceptional service during World War II. He also received the Grand Officer of the Crown of Italy award from that country's ambassador to the U.S. that same year. Further pressures from Dietrich and deteriorating financial shape at TWA due to the mounting expenses from starting up international service and the post-war recession certainly caused Jack FRYE to see an axe suspended above his neck after 13 years of incredible service. Slowly but surely, Dietrich swung a majority of the directors into an anti-FRYE mood, as quoted by the aviation historian Robert Serling. By early 1947, TWA's stock had plummeted from $71 a share to $9. As in 1946, 1947 was beginning to look doom and gloom financially, and it was. The Hughes-FRYE business relationship, now very strained due to disagreements on how the company should be run, Jack resigned on February 17, 1947. The legacy of the Jack FRYE and TWA was now sealed forever. He almost returned to TWA in 1956, when TWA was without a president. Some of his old associates actually began a campaign to bring him back, and Hughes was hopeful. But it came down to Hughes and FRYE not agreeing on how the company should be run. Jack required full control, but Howard wouldn't budge. The original invitation of Jack's that had Howard Hughes invest in TWA in 1939 and take the company to the top of the airline world had finally blossomed into a giant curse. As a result of Howard's belligerence, power-mongering, and not paying his creditors with monetary trickery, he was forced out of TWA in 1960, though he owned 78% of the company. By 1966, Hughes was forced by a U.S. federal court to sell his shares in TWA. In this writer's opinion, Hughes should never have allowed Jack FRYE to resign to work it out. In 1947, Jack FRYE went on to become the CEO and president of General Aniline and Film Corporation, Kodak's prime competitor with over 20,000 employees worldwide. In 1950, he married his fourth wife, Emily Nevada Smith. Jack finally had his only child and heir with Emily in 1953. Her name is Nevajak FRYE, who today resides in Connecticut. Be sure to listen to the fifth and final segment of the Jack FRYE video bibliography.